Winston, and I'm going to talk to you today about my favorite thriller author. I bet you can guess who it is. Of course, it's John Sandford. He has a new book that just came out in April. I'm going to detail my favorite, my top 5 picks of his long-running Prey series and discuss them and explain why he should become your new favorite too. Let's get into it. Okay. Oh, by the way, if I didn't say so again, I'm Sherry Winston. I am a children's author who is venturing to write her first cozy mystery novel. Yay! And you guys, I've had a breakthrough. Okay, that's going to be a different video. But trust me, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share where I am in that journey. But not in this video. This video is about books. It's about books that I didn't write. And this one is about the long-running Prey series featuring Minnesota detective and BCA agent, a Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and then United States Marshal, Lucas Davenport. Now, the series spans 36 books. The first book came out, Rules of Prey came out in 1989. So, this series has been going a long time. I didn't discover it until maybe the late 90s. And then I started playing catch up with it. And I've just been hooked, So one of the things that I think make this series so great is the fact that Lucas Davenport is allowed to grow. In 36 books, he's always been in Minnesota, but he has moved houses, he's gotten married, he's had kids, he's changed jobs within law enforcement. His character continues to evolve. Now, Lucas Davenport started out as a hard-nosed, run and gun, love the women, play the media type of street detective. He was all about getting it done, doing what he needed to do to catch the bad guy. And the early books were really, they really built his character. He sometimes had a problem with depression. He sometimes took a little something to take the edge off. He was like a real person. They weren't making him out to be, this superhuman, super moral. He was moral, but he did what it took to get the bad guy. Now, I've gone over it. Like I said, there are 36 books, and I've read and listened to them all. Many of the ones that I'm going to talk about now are ones that I listen to repeatedly. If I have books and I run out of a book on my book ends, and I'm in the middle of a trip, or even in the grocery store, and I don't know what to access, I just go into my Lucas Davenport collection in my Audible, and I just find one of these 5 books and let it play. So I'm going to talk about these 5, and then I'm going to talk about the latest book. So one of the first books of his that really just sort of blew my mind was called Winter Prey, and it is truly one of my all-time favorites. I've mentioned on here before how much I enjoy a winter setting. Just that I grew up in Michigan. And Michigan and Minnesota have a lot in common. And I grew up by the lake. So we got a lot of snow and a lot of atmosphere. And that's what I get from a lot of his books. Not all of them are set in winter. There are a few that I'm going to talk about that were definitely set in summer and have summer settings. But the ones that I seem to have gravitated to the most are the ones that have that atmosphere. So in Winter Prey, Lucas, I believe he has left the police. He either got fired or he left, And his old boss, Rosemarie, is a political animal, and she's trying to work out something that maybe she'll be in charge of a state agency that Lucas can work for her as a detective later. So in the meantime, he's off. He's not married yet. I don't think he has any children yet. But he is off in his cabin in the Minnesota wilderness. You know, he's been ice fishing and, I don't know, doing what you do when you're at a cabin. And then a deputy comes to the door and tells him that the chief of police in this small community needs some help. So he, decides, well, I'll go over. I don't know what I can do. I don't have a badge or anything. So he goes there and he winds up getting deputized by the sheriff. And the sheriff is just gobsmacked because there was a house fire. And when the ashes and the flames and everything cleared, there were 3 bodies: the husband, the wife, and the 11-year-old daughter. And so, Lucas is a hunter. He is intrigued by just the circumstances. I mean, it's so cold that the deputies are just freezing in place. They can't get the fire out because the hoses keep freezing. I mean, it's an absolute mess. So just the whole scenario, and then what happens afterward. And what he doesn't know at that time, what none of them know, is that they are going to be matching wits with a criminal who refers to himself as the Iceman. And the Iceman is nasty. I mean, just full scale nasty. You can check for trigger warnings. I hear other content creators saying that all the time. And this one, it involves some underage people and some really bad adults. And I'm going to leave that at that. So Lucas takes I guess he takes the bait. He goes in. What I loved about this story, and if you are someone who wants to write fiction, someone who reads to get a better understanding about how thrillers work and this and that, I urge you to read this series because not all of his books go like this. Some, as I said, in 36 books, I've seen a variety. Some that I liked a lot more than others, but none that I would say, ugh, I don't know why he wrote that. I mean, if I don't tend to rate books on my channel, but if I had to rate his lowest book, for me, it would be a 3. So it would still be worth reading. It just was a subject that didn't appeal to me. He had one book, it's either the 7th or the 8th book. I can't remember. I'm going to look and see in a minute what the prey number was. But it's the only book of his I will never listen to again. And it's not because it was bad. It's the opposite. But there was this woman and her daughter got abducted. Let me look that up so I'm just not telling you something blind. What are you doing, Sherry Denise? What are you doing? Mind Prey. It looks like it came out in 1995. And I used to work at a newspaper in Fort Lauderdale. And I had a few friends in my department. And we all talked about books and we read books and we exchanged books. And I read that book and I was going to give it to one of the other ladies. And I explained to her about it. And she was like, oh no, I would have nightmares. I can't read that. I'm only going to tell you one thing about that book. One of the things I'll tell you about that book that really sort of changed how I moved around in the world was how this woman and her daughter got kidnapped. And at the time that I read this, I didn't have any children and didn't really aspire to. So come here, baby. I didn't really aspire to at that time. That came later. But this van has parked really close to their car, the kind with the sliding door, and it's raining and it's gray, and the woman has her rain jacket on, and she runs with the little girl. I think the little girl is about 8. And she runs with the little girl and she turns her back on the van because she's trying to make sure her daughter gets into the car. And when she does, the man comes out and he takes them both. I mean, it was less than 30 seconds, less than 20 seconds. And I remember talking to someone someone who covered the police beat at the newspaper. I mean, it just got to me. That book just got to me. And, just talking about, do you think that that could really happen? And, he started telling me some horror stories. And it was just, again, it was claustrophobic. I think he kept him in some kind of cave. It was just intense, and torturing the mom and telling her if you don't comply, the daughter. It was awful in the sense that it felt so real. So anyway, I digress. That was not one of my favorites. Naked Prey is the next book on my list. The first one was Winter Prey. Winter Prey is one of my absolute all-time favorites. I think it's the 5th book in the series. I saw a question online. Somebody asked, can you read the Prey series out of order? I believe you can. I mean, as I said, there's world building. But one of the books I'm going to get to is I think the first or second book of his when he becomes a deputy. And the way that book is written, you wouldn't have to read anything before it in order to follow that story. So anyway, that was Winter Prey. The next book is Naked Prey. Now, Naked Prey, man, again, it was another wintry Minnesota. And it starts when Lucas gets a call he gets summoned to the governor's office. And when he gets there, now Lucas is working for the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And he is supposed to be the governor's guy. If there's something going on in the state that needs to be handled, Lucas is the person that the governor calls. So there's a situation in a small Minnesota town where people woke up to the sight of a black man and a white woman stripped naked and hanged just out in public and everywhere. And the governor wants him to go and try and make sure this doesn't turn into some powder keg, because they don't know. It looks very racially motivated, and they, at the time, they just don't know. So Lucas goes and he gets involved in the case. And the thing that I like about this story is just, it's the twists and turns. John Sandford writes these books in third person close and omniscient. That's what I'm trying to say. And so, and he moves around from different characters, so there are multiple points of view. And so it's never a doubt that Lucas is the main character, but sometimes he gets into the head, a lot of times he will flip the script and get into the head of the killer, which he does in this book. Only as the readers, we don't know who that person is. That person identifies himself in his mind as something else. We don't know who he is in that community. So in this particular book, that's how it's written. There are other books that he's written, especially some of his later ones, where he reveals the killer right off the bat and the motive, and and then it's a case of catch me if you can. So the viewpoints go back and forth and around, and that can be a lot of fun too. But with Naked Prey, it was the characters. There are, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but there are some nuns who are just different kind of nuns. That's all I'm going to say. You need to know about the nuns. And there are just some, John Sandford, man, when he makes a bad person, he really goes in. I mean, he has some bad people in this book. So that is Naked Prey. Now, the next one is one that I really, really liked, and it was a lot of fun, and it was just as crazy. And the thing about the bad guys in this book, unlike other books, he has books about serial killers. he has books about people who think they're geniuses. He has all of these different kinds of books. But the thing about Storm Prey is that the bad guys are idiots, and they just do one thing after another just to dig the hole deeper, I guess that's what you would say. So in Storm Prey, at this point, Lucas is married, and his wife is a surgeon, a very well-renowned surgeon in the community, and she is doing a special operation on, I believe it's conjoined twins, sisters, and so there's this whole big. She's not the lead surgeon, but she has been asked to be part of the team, and it's been a big deal in the hospital, and they've been getting ready, and they have to have their tools and their things laid out and certain, blah blah blah. Well, when she arrives that morning, she has no idea that once she gets to the operating theater, the surgery is going to have to be postponed. Why? Because the pharmacy in the hospital has been looted, and the drugs that they would need for the babies are not there, not to mention for some other people. So there's a lot of scrambling going on. And it's just, I love the way that Sandford takes us inside. Lucas' wife name is Weather, so she's Weather Davenport, and how he takes us inside Weather's world when she's doing surgery. I mean, he gets very medically specific and technical, and it just makes you feel like, man, he really had to learn some stuff to get this in. And I really appreciate that. As as a fellow author, I've done some things for younger people and hoping to do some things for older people, for grown-up people, and just the amount of effort and attention and stamina it takes to follow that storyline like he does. I mean, it's just masterful. And Storm Prey, what is really propulsive about it is the fact that in this particular book, Weather becomes a target because someone in the hospital has, somewhere in the hospital is an inside guy. And there is fear that she saw the bad guys leaving when she was coming in. So they come after her a few times. And it's amazing. It's just amazing how it works out. So the story is fast. As I said, it moves from multiple viewpoints. You really get inside the head of the bad people, and you just think, man, if you had just applied yourself in school, just think of what you could be. It's just, I don't know, maybe that's me. I always default to education. Like, I see somebody struggling, and I'm like, man, if only you had taken advantage of your education when you had the chance. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's me. Don't even worry about me. So my top 5 are Winter Prey, Naked Prey, Storm Prey, and Golden Prey. So Golden Prey is about Lucas after he becomes a United States Marshal. And now he has the ability to get involved in crimes nationwide. As I was saying, Golden Prey takes place largely, well, I guess it moves all over the country. It starts in Texas, and you have, again, it starts off with Lucas, and Lucas is doing an undercover gig that he has been assigned. And then he is told about a drug hit where a known drug dealer in Mississippi gets robbed and murdered. Everybody, there's six men and one 8-year-old girl. One of the men had brought his granddaughter with him to the drug house. And so she is murdered as well. And at this point, Lucas is married. He's got children. He's a family man. And there's just something about the images of that little girl in her little lacy white communion type dress. I don't even think she was 8. I think she was 6. But either way, they've murdered a child, and Lucas is not okay with that. And so people have been looking for these criminals for years, and they're like ghosts. So, for someone like Lucas, who is a hunter, that's like, that's like bait. You can't tell him something like that and then expect that he's not going to do something about it. I mean, come on. So that's what happens. He starts to investigate. He gets a scent on the trail of the killers. But the thing is, the cartel has put a hit out on the killers, and now they've got their own killers killing people to try to find the killers. So now Lucas is trying to find all the killers, and it's just a wild ride. As I said, most of his books take place in Minnesota. They take place in winter settings, and and it's cold. But this book takes place in the heat of Texas. I'm not sure if it was spring or summer, but it definitely wasn't winter. And they wind up, in some border town. I mean, it's just crazy. It is a crazy story, but it is so good. And again, one of the things that I like about it the most is I think that might be book number 20 or 21, and the fact that Sandford was able to do something with it's excellent. It's fast paced. You go back and forth. You do get to meet the criminals. You do get to meet all the killers. You spend time with the people who kill the kids, and you listen to the child, and you listen to the rationale in their heads, and you're just like, man, there's something bit inside your head. And then there are the people who are after the killers, the people that the cartel sent, and they're even more messed up than the original killers. And so now Lucas is trying to find all these people who are littering the landscape of Texas with dead bodies, which, would be upsetting if you were law enforcement. So that is Golden Prey. And again, even though it's very late in the series, just in terms of where it lands, it's such a good book. This reviewer says it's filled with his trademark razor-sharp plotting and some of the best characters in suspense fiction. And that came from the Huffington Post. And I have to agree. I agree with every word in that assessment. Is that it's just so sharp and no extra words. But he manages to do that and still capture the scene. You don't get lost. You don't have to, like, oh my, well, who is this person again? Because you've been following them throughout. People don't just pop up out of nowhere. When we are inside the mind of a dirtbag, you know why we're there, because they're a dirtbag. So that's that. And then the final one that I chose, as I said, is called Ocean Prey. And Ocean Prey I think it was down in Florida. They were down in South Florida. And an off-duty Coast Guardsman is fishing with his family when he notices something really bizarre. He's just out and he looks around, and there's this boat that comes, and a female diver comes up out of the water, and they're just in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, why was she there? What are they doing? They must be up to something. So he calls his Coast Guard buddies and said, look, I'm out here with my family, so I'm not going to approach them, but somebody should look into this. And then the next thing you know, you have 3 dead Coast Guardsmen. And so that is how Lucas gets involved, because they are a part of the federal government. And what's really juicy about this one is the interplay between Lucas and his new partner and an old friend that, if you read the series, especially if you read them in order or even kind of out of order, there's a character called Virgil Flowers. They call him Virgie. And Virgie is about as different from Lucas as night and day. You know, he's got hair, long blonde hair that's not regulation. He shows up at crime scene in his dirt kickers and his Levi's, and he's always wearing some kind of old school rock band t-shirt. I mean, you know, whereas Lucas likes to keep things close to the vest. Virgil might go to the diner in the center of town when he is investigating a crime and just start talking to people about who you think did it. Well, you know, and who do you know, and people love him because it's like, oh, we can get some information. And so it's like a give and take. But Virgil became so popular in the Prey series books that Lucas pulled him out, and, you know, I think there are at least 8, maybe 10 Virgil Flowers books. I mean, and they're awesome. I mean, I could do a separate thing. I might do a separate thing just on Virgil's books because they're excellent. But anyway, the great thing about Ocean Prey is that you get Lucas and Virgil, and there's an undercover operation, and Virgil has to learn how to dive, and he's a fisherman, and, you know, he swims in the fishing hole and all that stuff, but he don't know nothing about deep sea diving. So he has to take this course, he has to get this certification. I mean, it's a process, and he has to live with Lucas's female partner, who I'm just completely blanking on her name right now, and they have to appear as a couple. And Virgil is already coupled. He's not married yet in Ocean Prey, but he has a pregnant girlfriend at home who has made all kind of threats about, you know, him needing to, you know, take care of business and not be messing around. But it's a really good book. The characters really come to life. I really felt that pressure of him trying to learn how to dive and being underwater, and trying not to get the bends. They were looking for something in particular. They were trying to find it before the bad guys found it. And I mean, it was extraordinary. It was just really extraordinary. So those are my top 5. And now for the newest release by John Sandford, or in the Prey series. I have to put my glasses on. All right, this is the book that I just read. I mean, like, it came out 2 weeks ago, so I know what it's about, but I don't want to give anything away since I've only listened to this once, unlike the other books that I've listened to so many times. But in this book, Lucas is, like I said, he's a United States deputy, a U.S. Marshal, and they are protecting a Russian witness because he has given evidence against some criminals in Russia, and and he and his family are in hiding. And almost instantly, the bad guys find him. And so it just becomes a cat and mouse game of trying to keep different people in the family alive long enough to get them somewhere safe, and these killers just being relentless, and again, having an inside track, we'll say, and it's just as propulsive, just as razor sharp, just as character driven, yet plot driven. Like, how do you do that? How do you make a book character driven and plot driven? I don't know, but he's managed to do it. So those are my top 5, plus the bonus book of the new book called Revenge Prey, book number 36 in the Prey novel series. If you love thrillers, if you love police procedurals, if you like that feeling of getting inside the killer's mind, his books are awesome. And some of his early books, like I watch a lot of you content creators, and you talk about these books that are graphic and that you need the content warnings and to check for warnings and that sort of thing. His early books are really dark. His head was in a dark place. Lucas's, I don't know about John Sandford, but Lucas was in a dark place, and he chased some really dark characters. Like, some of those I've revisited, but they are not the ones that I know, like some of these books I've listened to so much, I know them by heart. Any part of it you put on and start playing, if I pull it up in my Kindle, I can go to certain parts because that's how many times I've read them. I know I have a problem. But I promise you this, next week, we will not be talking about Lucas Davenport or John Sandford. I promise you that. So that's all I have to say. Those are my favorites in the Prey canon. I think John Sandford deserves some kind of medal because he is awesome. And if you are curious about Lucas and you want to just get a sample, I would urge you to start with Winter Prey. But again, check those those trigger warnings. I think that's what it's called. Naked Prey is just a propulsive, fast-paced, fun ride. And so is Golden Prey. Golden Prey, just in the way it moves across the country, and you've got killers chasing killers, and the cops chasing all the killers. I mean, there are a lot of killing going on in that book. So, again, thank you so much for listening to me. If you haven't had the opportunity, please like and subscribe. I love you all, and I am happy to be back, and I hope to talk to you soon. Toodles!